5 True Alone at Work Night Shift Horror Stories. Story 1, The Shadow in the Warehouse. In 2016, Tom worked the night shift at a large warehouse. The vast, dimly lit space was eerie, with rows of towering shelves casting long shadows. One quiet night, while completing his rounds, he noticed a shadowy figure moving between the stacks of boxes. Assuming it was a coworker, he called out but received no response. Curiosity piqued, Tom followed the shadow, but it seemed to dissolve into the darkness each time he approached. The encounter left him feeling uneasy, but he brushed it off as a trick of the light. Over the next few nights, the shadowy figure appeared again, always in his peripheral vision, never allowing him a clear view. One particularly quiet night, Tom decided to investigate further. He equipped himself with a flashlight and a walkie-talkie, determined to uncover the mystery. As he ventured deeper into the warehouse, the shadow appeared again, moving swiftly between the shelves. Tom chased after it, his heart pounding. Suddenly, he heard a loud crash behind him. Spinning around, he saw that several boxes had fallen, but there was no one there. The shadow had vanished. Tom reported the incident to his supervisor, who checked the security footage. To their horror, the footage showed the shadowy figure following Tom closely, but disappearing whenever he turned around. Terrified, Tom realized he was dealing with something beyond explanation. The warehouse was rumored to be built on the site of an old factory where workers had died in accidents. The realization that he might be dealing with restless spirits was too much for him. Unable to continue working under such terrifying conditions, Tom quit his job, convinced the warehouse was haunted by something sinister. Story 2, The Ghostly Janitor. In 2017, Sarah worked as a night shift janitor at an old office building. The building had a long history, and its corridors were lined with portraits of past employees, giving it an almost museum-like atmosphere. One night, while cleaning the top floor, she heard faint footsteps behind her. When she turned around, she saw an older man in a janitor's uniform, mopping the floor. Sarah greeted him, but he ignored her, continuing his work. Puzzled, she watched him for a moment before continuing with her duties. The encounter left her with an unsettling feeling. The next day, she asked her supervisor about the man, describing his appearance in detail. Her supervisor's face turned pale. He revealed that no one else worked the night shift in the building. When she described the man again, the supervisor recognized the description as that of a previous janitor who had died in a tragic accident years ago. He had fallen from a ladder while cleaning the top floor, exactly where Sarah had seen him. Sarah was horrified. She began to recall other strange occurrences, objects moving on their own, lights flickering, and the feeling of being watched. Each night, the ghostly janitor appeared, silently performing his duties. Sarah's fear grew with each encounter, and she found it increasingly difficult to concentrate on her work. One night, she mustered the courage to speak to the apparition, asking him what he wanted. The ghostly janitor paused, turned to her with a sorrowful expression, and then vanished before her eyes. Shaken, Sarah couldn't continue working there. She handed in her resignation, unable to endure the haunting presence any longer. The building's history had come back to haunt her, and she couldn't escape the ghostly figure that now occupied her nightmares. Story 3, The Hospital Haunt. In 2018, Emily was a nurse working the night shift at a hospital. The facility had a reputation for being haunted, with numerous reports of unexplained phenomena. One night, while making her rounds, she heard a child crying in an empty room. The sound was faint but unmistakable. When she entered the room, the crying stopped, and an icy chill filled the air. The room was dark, and the only light came from the hallway. Emily felt a shiver run down her spine as she checked every corner, finding nothing. She quickly left, trying to dismiss the experience. But the crying continued over the next few nights, always in the same room. The pattern was the same, the crying would stop the moment she entered. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Emily spoke to a senior nurse, who revealed a chilling story. Decades ago, a young patient had died in that very room under tragic circumstances. Since then, staff had reported hearing the child's cries, but no one had ever seen anything. The room was believed to be haunted by the spirit of the child, seeking comfort. One night, Emily saw the ghostly figure of a little girl standing at the end of the hallway. She wore a hospital gown and had a sad expression on her face. As Emily approached, the girl vanished. The encounter left her shaken. She felt an overwhelming sense of sadness and helplessness, knowing that the child's spirit was still trapped in the hospital. The experiences began to take a toll on Emily. She found it difficult to focus on her duties, constantly on edge. The crying, the cold spots, and the ghostly apparitions were too much to bear. She requested a transfer to a different shift, unable to handle the haunting presence any longer. The hospital's tragic history had left a lasting mark, and Emily couldn't escape the feeling that she was being watched by unseen eyes. Story 4: The Library Spectre. In 2019, Jake worked the night shift at a university library. The library, with its towering bookshelves and quiet reading rooms, had a peaceful yet eerie atmosphere. One night, while reshelving books, he noticed a student sitting at a table, engrossed in a thick textbook. It was unusual for anyone to be there so late, but Jake didn't think much of it. He approached to ask if the student needed help, but as he got closer, the figure vanished, leaving the chair empty. Startled, Jake looked around, but there was no sign of the student. He checked the security footage, and what he saw chilled him to the bone. The footage showed the student appearing and disappearing throughout the night, always in different spots. Jake spoke to the head librarian, who shared a disturbing tale. Years ago, during finals week, a student had died in the library from exhaustion and stress. Since then, there had been reports of ghostly sightings, but nothing concrete. The head librarian warned Jake to be careful, as the spirit was believed to be restless. The sightings continued, with the spectral student appearing and disappearing at random. Jake began to feel a constant sense of unease, as if he were being watched. Books would fall off shelves, computers would turn on by themselves, and cold spots would appear without warning. The library's once peaceful atmosphere had turned sinister. One night, Jake decided to confront the spirit. He sat at a table and waited, hoping to see the ghostly student. Hours passed, and just as he was about to give up, the figure appeared across from him. The student looked up, met Jake's eyes, and then vanished once more. The encounter left Jake shaken and convinced that the spirit was trying to communicate. Unable to continue working under such terrifying conditions, Jake left his job. The library, with its haunted history, had become a place of dread. The spectral student continued to haunt the halls, a reminder of the tragedy that had occurred. Jake couldn't escape the feeling that the library's ghost would forever be a part of his life.